Look at your hands. The dirt under your fingernails is either your greatest asset or something corporate marketing is quietly stripping away. Your neighbors are going to spend hundreds of dollars this month on things nature gives away for free, chasing a synthetic perfection that does not exist. They buy the fancy green bottles, they spray the toxic mist, and they wonder why their soil feels like concrete by August. They're trapped in a loop, spending money to buy a temporary look of health while actually killing off the very life in their soil. But you have a blue and green box sitting under your kitchen sink right now, a tool that has quietly survived in American cupboards for over 130 years. It's about $6 at the hardware store today. Sure, that's a bit more than what your granddad paid for it with pocket change, but it's still dirt cheap. The massive garden conglomerates will never advertise this box to protect your tomatoes from pests, your pantry from ants, or your lawn from grubs. They cannot sell you a $40 cure if you already own a $6 solution. They want you to look at your garden as a perpetual battlefield where you must buy your way to peace. So, they would rather you never learned the raw chemistry that our ancestors took for granted. I am going to lay out the exact protocols for using plain old borax around your homestead, maximizing your results while protecting your hard-earned savings. But hear me clearly before we pull the first lid off the box. If you do not master the exact math behind this powder, your cheap remedy will become an ecological disaster. The line between medicine and poison is always measured in spoons, and a single reckless hand can sterilize a patch of earth for 3 years running. Stay with me until the final protocol, because the last method is something the modern chemical machine spent decades trying to erase from the history books. Let us look at the market before we look at the dirt. While corporations sell you complexity to inflate their quarterly profits, nature offers you simplicity to protect your wallet. The white powder inside that $6 box is sodium tetraborate. It is not an artificial concoction cooked up in a corporate laboratory. It is a raw mineral pulled directly out of the dry lake beds of Death Valley, California. Since the late 19th century, those historic 20-mule teams hauled this exact compound across 165 miles of open desert. They were not moving a cleaning fad. They were moving a fundamental asset for the home and land. Your grandfather knew its value. His mother knew its weight, but the modern consumer has been conditioned to look for a luxury logo on a plastic bottle. Let us reclaim that value, one row at a time. Protocol number 1 addresses the silent empire beneath your foundations, the ant colony collapse. The commercial market tells you to buy fast-acting contact sprays that instantly fry every insect in sight. But that's just a trick. You're only killing the worker ants you can see, while the reproductive queen remains completely safe deep underground. Picture a weathered wooden fence post against a backdrop of rich, dark soil where a steady line of scouts is tracing an invisible trail toward your kitchen door. According to documented research from the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources Program, low-dose borax bait doesn't kill them right away. It takes time to kick in, which completely exploits the way ants share food. When you mix exactly 1 level teaspoon of borax into 1 cup of warm water with a half cup of organic sugar, you are creating a highly effective trap. Soak clean cotton balls in this clear syrup and position them on an old glass jar lid directly inside the pathway of the workers. Do not crush the scouts, do not spray the trail, and do not disrupt their transport line. Your direct reward is wiping out an entire underground colony within 72 hours for a fraction of a cent, saving you a $200 exterminator invoice. However, here's the catch. The sweet scent of this bait can attract domestic pets, so you must secure the jar lid under a heavy crate where curiosity cannot compromise your dog's health. Protocol number 2 establishes a defensive perimeter against slugs and snails. The standard agricultural advice is to scatter expensive blue chemical pellets that dissolve into a toxic sludge during the first heavy spring downpour. These synthetic pellets are a massive liability for your land, introducing metaldehyde into your soil system where your children play. Imagine the early morning light hitting your hosta beds, the dew lingering on crisp lettuce leaves, only to reveal jagged holes and a silvery path of destruction. In high-humidity regions like the Pacific Northwest, categorized under USDA hardiness zones 8 and 9, the slug population acts as a continuous drain on your garden's productivity. Sodium tetraborate acts as an immediate moisture tax on these soft-bodied pests, drawing water directly out of their tissue through osmotic pressure without poisoning the local water table with heavy salt. Take your dry borax and sprinkle a continuous, razor-thin ring exactly half an inch wide around the base of your plants, ensuring the powder never touches the living stem. You are effectively saving your entire summer harvest of strawberries and leafy greens for the cost of a single handful of laundry powder. Just keep in mind, borax dissolves in water easily. If it rains, the protection just washes away right into the dirt. Seriously, if it pours, you've got to go back out there and reapply it. It's a pain, but it works now. Protocol number 3 moves indoors to establish an immediate quarantine against carpet fleas. Big vet companies love setting you up on those monthly subscription chemical drops. They run you over $100 a year per pet. They sell you a perpetual state of dependency, treating the symptoms on your dog's fur while ignoring the real estate where the larvae actually breed. Visualize the deep fibers of an old woolen rug in your living room, where thousands of microscopic flea eggs are incubating completely untouched by liquid aerosol sprays. Borax acts as a massive drying agent. It gets deep down into the carpet fibers and dries out the delicate outer shell of the flea larvae before they can reach maturity. You apply this by dusting the fine white powder evenly across the dry carpet, working it deep into the base fibers with a stiff bristled push broom, leaving it undisturbed for 24 hours before running your vacuum. This single protocol breaks the reproductive life cycle of the pest, saving you from a mandatory $300 professional home fumigation fee. The warning is absolute. During that 24-hour processing window, you must lock the room down completely, keeping all children and small pets away from the floor to eliminate the risk of respiratory irritation from airborne dust. If you are watching this right now on your television, take a moment to look at your living room. If you are the type of person who skims through life looking for quick, lazy shortcuts to avoid doing real work, this channel is not your home. But if you view your soil as a long-term ecological investment, if you value the quiet labor of your land as a heritage for your children, then you belong here. Subscribing to this channel right now is not a social media gesture. It is a calculated investment in your own self-reliance. Do not let the modern commercial machine dictate the terms of your independence. Click the button, take ownership of the knowledge, and let us get back to the work that matters. Protocol number 4 introduces the defensive perimeter against the indoor crookroach. The modern pest control industry wants to trap you in a cycle of quarterly maintenance contracts, making their business model dependent on your ongoing infestation. They claim that modern urban roaches have developed a generic immunity to standard neurotoxic baits, which forces you to buy ever-increasing doses of stronger chemicals. Picture the dark, narrow void behind a heavy cast iron stove where nocturnal pests gather away from the clean light of your kitchen. Testing out of Texas A&M proved that plain old borate dust knocks down roach populations by over 90%. And the best part? Roaches can't build up an immunity to it. Mix equal parts of dry borax and plain white flour, then use a hand duster to apply a microscopic layer along the back crevices of your pantry cupboards and baseboards. The insect walks through the dust. Its natural grooming instincts force it to ingest the powder from its legs, and its internal metabolic system is completely disrupted within 48 hours. Your return is a permanently clean kitchen achieved for pennies, completely bypassing the corporate chemical subscription model. The warning requires precise application. You must apply this as an invisible dust rather than a thick line, because a heavy pile will cause the insects to simply walk around the trap entirely. Protocol number 5 marks the transition from pest destruction to structural soil investment, treating boron deficiency. Modern fertilizer companies want you to believe that plant health is a simple equation of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, forcing you to dump heavy bags of synthetic fertilizer into your beds every spring. This brute force approach ignores the micronutrients that act as the structural engineers of your crop's reproductive system. There is nothing worse than cutting into a gorgeous head of summer cauliflower only to find a hollow, bitter, brown core inside. It's heartbreaking. Or watching your apple crop drop its fruit prematurely onto the orchard floor. The folks over at the Oregon State Extension Office figured out a long time ago that tomatoes absolutely need boron to build strong plant walls and actually grow fruit. Dissolve exactly 1 level tablespoon of borax into 2 gallons of warm water and apply it evenly across 1,000 square feet of garden soil using a clean watering can once a year in early spring. This tiny micro-investment can double your total harvest weight of tomatoes, beets, and broccoli, turning a struggling plot into a high-yielding food asset. Listen to me very carefully on this one. Don't get greedy. Boron is excellent in whispers, but lethal in shouts. If you double this dose thinking it'll help, you'll turn a great nutrient into a brutal weed killer, sterilizing your soil and burning your plants down to their roots. Protocol number 6 provides a permanent shield for your structural lumber and firewood piles. The commercial timber industry sells pressure-treated, wood-coated, inexpensive chemical formulas, charging a premium price for protection that nature provides for pocket change. They want you to buy a new $60 gallon of synthetic sealant every time you build a simple raised bed or repair a fence line. Picture the heavy white oak sills of an old timber frame barn, or a neatly stacked pile of cordwood curing under a rusted tin roof in the humid summer air. When you dissolve borax into warm water until it reaches its maximum saturation point, roughly 1 part powder to 8 parts water, create an unwashable mineral barrier. Brush or spray this hot solution directly onto bare, unpainted exterior timber, allowing the mineral crystals to soak deep into the grain where wood-boring beetles and termites operate. The borate compounds wipe out the microorganisms in the bug's gut, preventing them from breaking down wood and causing them to starve within their own tunnels. This basic application preserves thousands of dollars of structural value for the cost of a single box of laundry booster. Your warning here is a matter of placement. This water-soluble treatment must be protected from direct, continuous driving rain, meaning it is perfectly suited for covered structures but will leach out of completely exposed fence posts over time. Protocol number 7 tackles the persistent threat of powdery mildew on your vine crops. The garden center aisle is packed with expensive copper-based fungicides designed to be sprayed week after week, slowly accumulating heavy metals in your topsoil. They want you to treat fungal outbreaks as an inevitable annual fee that you must pay to keep your squash plants alive. Picture the expansive green leaves of your summer zucchini completely blanketed in a dull, grayish-white dust that suffocates the plant in the middle of July. The presence of destructive mildew can destroy an entire patch of squashed plants. Within 2 weeks, if the ambient humidity rises during the peak of the growing season, mix 1 level teaspoon of borax and a tablespoon of regular cooking oil into a gallon of rainwater, and you've got yourself a killer homemade spray. Spray this mixture thoroughly on both the upper and lower surfaces of the leaves in the cool hours of early dawn before the intense midday sun hits the patch. The borax immediately shifts the surface pH of the leaf tissue to a level where fungal spores cannot germinate, while the oil acts as a natural sticking agent to lock the mineral in place. This strategy recovers an entire crop of winter squash from the brink of destruction, protecting your initial investment in seed and labor for less than a nickel per application. The warning is critical for northern climates. Never apply this solution during the heat of a 90-degree afternoon, or the oil will trap the thermal energy and cause severe leaf burn across your entire canopy. Protocol number 8 provides a targeted solution for eradicating weeds from the structural joints of your homestead. The big chemical companies want you to spray glyphosate on every stray blade of grass, ignoring the long-term liability that these toxins impose on human health. They want you to carry a heavy plastic tank on your back, wearing rubber gloves and a mask just to clean up your driveway stones. Picture a beautiful hand-laid brick walkway or a clean concrete patio where aggressive crabgrass and deep-rooted dandelions are cracking through the mortar lines. When you dissolve 1 1/4 cups of pure borax into a single gallon of boiling water, you're brewing up an incredibly strong, non-selective weed killer. Pour this hot brine directly into the stone crevices on a dry, blazing hot June morning when the afternoon sun is at its maximum intensity. The extreme amount of boron completely shocks the weed, destroying the root structure within 4 days and leaving a residual mineral barrier that prevents new seeds from germinating for the remainder of the season. The myth that Ifthid replaces a $40 jug of commercial weed killer with a clean watering can and a few cents worth of kitchen minerals. Now, a major warning here on where you aim this stuff. Do not use this formula anywhere near your active garden beds or lawn edges because the heavy runoff will travel through the soil and kill any desirable plant it encounters. You know, history has a funny way of reminding us of the things we chose to forget when easy convenience took over the American mind. We have arrived at our final protocol, number 9. This is the method that was pinned to the of old smokehouse doors in 1926, before the chemical salesman arrived after the war. This is the ultimate fruit tree preservation tactic used by old-school orchardists to combat the codling moth, the single greatest threat in the history of American apple cultivation. The modern garden catalog will desperately try to sell you synthetic pheromone traps for $15 apiece, accompanied by chemical cover sprays that must be applied 7 times a season. Imagine cutting into a beautifully red, crisp autumn apple, only to find a dark, bitter brown tunnel winding its way directly into the core. The larvae of the codling moth spend their winter months hibernating, deep inside the rough, flaky bark crevices along the lower trunk of your mature fruit trees. In the dead of late winter, before the green buds break, you take a heavy paintbrush and mix a thick paste of borax and warm water until it reaches the exact consistency of heavy cream. Paint a solid, continuous white band of this mineral paste around the circumference of the tree trunk, starting from 12 inches off the ground up to 3 feet high. As the spring temperature rises and the waking larvae attempt to crawl up the trunk toward the newly forming blossoms, they are forced to cross this heavy borate barrier. The mineral paste destroys the delicate pests on contact before they ever reach a single green leaf, ensuring a pristine harvest without a single drop of neurotoxic spray. This ancestral protocol was detailed in a 1914 United States Department of Agriculture Farmers Bulletin, a document that was quietly discontinued once industrial chemical manufacturing took over post-war agriculture. I have maintained this exact mineral line on my own orchard trees for over a decade, and my reward is a 95% clean harvest for pennies per tree. The modern world wants to sell you a product for every problem, training you to look at a retail catalog instead of our own pantry shelves. They have systematically detached us from the plain, practical know-how that built this country before anyone tried to put a corporate price tag on self-sufficiency. You did not lose this historical knowledge by accident. It was simply not profitable for the chemical companies to keep teaching it to you. Your garden is not a corporate battlefield that requires a constant influx of synthetic products to remain productive. Look at your land as a self-sustaining asset. Use the tools that have proven their value over generations, and let the soil do the work it was designed to perform. Before you put your tools away for the evening, leave a comment below stating your exact USDA hardiness zone and the specific pest that is draining your savings this season. I read every single line, and your specific problem helps me figure out what we should tackle in the next video. Your garden is not a battlefield. Let it rest, and your back will too.